This is a Yenko Camaro. You may have seen one in movies like Too Fast and Too Furious or on the cover of any muscle car magazine. In 2022, a 1967 Yenko Camaro painted in Deepwater blue sold for $632,000. It is one of only 54 cars converted in the first year. In total, there are approximately 316 first-generation Camaros ever produced by Don Yenko over a 3-year run. Considered the Shelby of Chevrolet, he knew exactly what he wanted from the start, that being his name on the back of a car that people would instantly recognize as the leading performance version. Born the only son of a Chevrolet dealer in 1927 near southwestern Pennsylvania, Don's father, Frank Yenko, started a Durant dealership in 1928, eventually moving to a Chevrolet dealership in 1934. Located in Bentleyville, Pennsylvania, it began to take off, and in 1949, Frank Yenko opened a second location just down the road in Canonsburg, PA. A young Don Yenko, however, did not want to join the family business right away. Instead, he earned his pilot license at age 16 and later ended up serving in the Air Force. He then attended Penn State University for a degree in business administration, and only after graduating at age 30 did he return to work at Canonsburg and the dealership, finally deciding to work on what would become his legacy. With a selection of any Chevrolet on his dad's lot, Don's first race was in 1957. He chose a brand new V8 3-speed Corvette with a modified exhaust. While on vacation in New Smyrna Beach near Daytona, Florida, he saw a sign that read, "Enter for sports car racing here." And in typical Yenko fashion, he bluffed his way right into racing by giving an imaginary competition driving number to the girl at the gate. There he would find himself driving between veterans like Paul Goldsmith in a 4-speed Corvette, which he had not seen at the time. Because of his transmission problems, Don ran the entire race in second gear. He then crossed the finish line with 3 to 4 foot flames shooting from the rear of his car. The modified exhaust on Don's car was aimed directly at the rear end housing, which had caught on fire. But Yenko had caught the racing bug and now was a full-blown racer. In his first full year of racing, he would blow up 5 engines at tracks like Cumberland, Dunkirk, and Akron, and in 1961 finished national runner-up. Yenko easily won national championships in a Corvette in 1962 and in 1963. This Corvette would trade hands in 2013 for over $1.4 million. By 1964, he had won the Northeast Division Championship and was also runner-up in 1965. Dripping in gold and trophies, he would in 1966 just miss winning the national championship at Riverside because of an official error. He had numerous class wins at the 12-hour Sebring race and the grueling Daytona 24 Hours, which in 1971 won first in class. Yenko even raced at Le Mans, but is best known for winning the Citrus 250 at Daytona in 1969 during what now we call Speed Week. Before Yenko built the Camaros he's known for today, he had his hands all over another special Yenko car called the Corvair. While looking through the Chevrolet lineup in 1965 for his next road racer, Yenko skipped over the Corvette. It had grown heavy by comparison, and the rear-engine Corvair had a 500-pound weight advantage. In 1966, he applied to the SCCA to approve the Corvair for competition. The project was greenlit, and the Yenko Stinger was born. The 1966 Yenko Stingers were all central office production orders or Copo cars, optioned with 4-speed transmissions, posi-tracked axles, special suspension, and steering equipment. But when they arrived to Yenko Chevrolet, the rear seats would also be taken out and the C-pillars were beefed up. The standard deck lid was replaced, of course, with a fiberglass unit and also had a spoiler, as well as they also wore adjustable air scoops. All Yenko Stingers were finished in ermine white and had Yenko emblems on the sail panel. The Yenko Stinger could be had in a number of different performance tunes, including the Stage 1, which had 160 horsepower, Stage 2, which was good for 190, Stage 3 that made 220, and the pure competition Stage 4, which made a staggering 240 horses from the 164 cubic inch flat 6. Yenko himself both raced and sold Stingers, but perhaps more importantly he established a nationwide network of dealerships that would sell the cars, including Nicky Chevrolet in Chicago. The Stinger proved competitive, and thus the program continued until 1967. But Yenko soon decided to apply what he learned with the Stinger to the Camaro, and these cars are what he would be known for. Stormer and Stomper are the names given to the very first 2 Yenko Camaro projects in 1966. The Stomper name really didn't stick though, and Yenko later called the 427 big block conversions Super Camaros. Super Camaros are the name given to only the 1967 and 68 versions, while the 1969 version is called a Yenko Super Car, but more on that later. In 66, Chevrolet got the ball rolling with the then little-known Camaro variant codenamed Z28. With the introduction of this new car, Yenko saw a new opportunity for both the SCCA and the Trans Am Racing Series. Fortunately, he had friends in the Z28 program and called upon them for special parts, turning the first two Yenko Camaros into road racing warriors. The Yenko Z28 cars would receive Yenko front springs and rear springs, hardened axles, and a posi traction rear end. They'd also receive quick ratio steering and brakes from the Corvette parts bin. The interior received a roll bar, competition belts, and harnesses in special gauges as well. Options were available for customers to choose from too, like including racing bucket seats, NHRA-approved windshields, and mag-type wheels. Yenko also jumped the gun on Chevrolet by offering a fiberglass rear spoiler before the factory ever did. The Yenko Stormer program ended up only ever selling two cars, one painted in red and sold to an Indianapolis Chevrolet dealer named Bud Gates, who was part of Yenko's performance dealer network and already owned a Yenko Stinger Corvair. The second was in Marina Blue and was ordered by a Florida racer named Bill Boy, who befriended Yenko while they raced Corvettes at Nassau Speed Week. The Bud Gates Camaro competed in just one Trans Am race, the 4-hour Sebring event in March of 1967, where it finished 16th overall and 12th in the over 2-liter division. After that, it essentially just disappeared. However, the original 302 is still around. A little more is known about the Boy car, but like the Gates car, its current whereabouts are also unknown. There is a third 1967 so-called Z28 that's also affiliated with Don Yenko, and it's often mistakenly referred to as a Stormer. While building cars for his customers, Yenko wanted a Camaro to race for himself, but since he was footing the bill, he bought a 6-cylinder car from a dealer auction, and the project, due to limited funds, just kinda went away, never really ever being a Z28 anyways. With a production run of just 2.5 cars, the Stormer Yenkos may just be the rarest Yenko Camaros ever made. Don would soon tackle another project with a different take on the Camaro. After meeting a man named Dick Harrell, or Mr. Chevrolet, who had previously worked with Nicky Chevrolet and Bill Thomas. Bill Thomas is the man who helped Dana Chevrolet in Los Angeles develop the first Camaro 427 conversion. Both Harrell and Thomas showed Yenko how to drop the 450 horsepower and the 410 horsepower versions of the 427 cubic inch big block into the Camaro and created supercars capable of dipping into the 11s at the drag strip. It is a little known fact that the first Camaro converted to a 427 from Yenko was delivered in September of 1966 and started life as a small block car, not a 396. History has it that the first 6 Yenkos were actually all small blocks, due to the fact that the 396 big block production of the Camaro was not available until November of 1966. The car was painted gold like some of the most iconic first-generation Camaros ever built, including the very first one, and was used to learn the process of the big block conversion. However, it was not actually the first Yenko Camaro sold, instead losing out to a more desirable red car on the lot. With the first year for Yenko Camaros a real success, 54 cars would end up leaving in total with the 427 crate motors from Chevrolet. Only 3 were Rally Sport Supersport versions, with one recently selling in 2022 for $533,000. By 1968, Yenko knew he had a hit and decided to up the ante. He placed orders for Camaros in even better specs by using the COPO system, which stands for Central Office Production Order, and was used to order special cars for different jobs, like cop cars with big motors. However, the first 20 cars that year were built without the COPO designation and did not include the heavy-duty cooling system, suspension, and brake upgrades. Yenko sold 64 Camaros in 1968, but these cars did not have the famous SYC logos on the headrests, but still had the 140-mile-an-hour speedometer, larger sway bar, 16-inch Pontiac wheels with Yenko badging, as well as front and rear spoilers. Only 11 cars in 1968 were the Rally Sport Supersport Yenko Total Package, and in 2022, a non-Rally Sport Supersport car sold for $630,000. The Yenko Super Camaros took off, assisted by Mr. Chevrolet's drag strip campaign, and spawned similar 427-powered Chevelles and Novas in '69. Yenko had convinced Chevrolet via the COPO program to plant the 427s into the Camaros at the factory, saving Yenko the costs associated with the engine swap. Only 201 1969 Camaros were said to have been modified by Don Yenko's Chevrolet dealership and sold throughout the country that year. Yenko kinda kept records for all 201 models, but they were handwritten and very hard to read. They document exterior color and transmission types to most of the cars, although this is not 100% confirmed. For example, 3 out of the original 201 cars were canceled, so they were technically never made, and there's only 198. According to the records, 171 units were equipped with manual transmissions, and only 30 units were said to be automatics. Some would argue that there are actually 221 1969 Camaros sold to the public as Yenkos. This includes 23 additional Camaros who were ordered by Jack Douglas Chevrolet in Hinsdale, Illinois. To determine whether you have a Don Yenko Camaro, or a Jack Douglas Chevrolet car, several things need to be known. It is said that the first Yenko cars in '69 were all X66 Copo cars, X66 being the code on the trim tag identifying the cars as 396 non-style trim group cars, which means that they did not have chrome wheel moldings, grills on the side, or blacked out rocker panels. If we look at pictures from Yenko's backlot, which was originally built on a radioactive dump, we can see that all the cars have no gills or no chrome accent trim either. Later, the cars would be switched to X44 codes where the same rules apply. However, the Jack Douglas cars were ordered with the X11 D80 style group, and then the Yenko decals were applied in Illinois through a handshake deal between Jack and Yenko. The X11 D80 cars had all the fancy chrome on the outside and are different than the original PA Yenko cars. Since many have changed over the years, the only way to tell would be to see if it says X11 D80 on the trim tag. To make matters worse, there are some known 69 X11 Yenko Copo cars not sold by Jack Douglas, but that number is very few. Don Yenko referred to all his cars in ads as sports cars, and in the 1968 and 68 cars are known as Super Camaros. However, the SYC logo on the 69 cars stands for Yenko Super Car after he began building other cars including 38 Novas and 99 Chevelles that year. He would eventually continue to build another 175 Novas in 1970 and then 19 Turbo Z cars in 1981. He even sold the leftover ZL1 Camaro all-aluminum blocks for Chevrolet in the mid-70s. These engines are of course marked with the Yenko logo. In 1982, while enjoying his first love, Don Yenko died while crash landing a Cessna airplane near Charleston, West Virginia.